Welcome to Living the Dream Iowa Life. I'm your host, Hannah Nuss, and each weekday we'll share enthusiasm for what's possible and dive into the stories of Iowans living their dream lives right here in the heartland. Whether you're chasing a big goal or just looking for a little inspiration, we've got you covered. Let's change the world together. This is Living the Dream Iowa Life. Let's go. Heyo, welcome to Living the Dream Iowa Life podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Nuss, and this is Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Yesterday, for anyone who joined us for our first recording in 4 months, thank you for sticking with me. It's going to take me a little time to get back into the flow of things. I'm in a new home office since the last time that we recorded, so kind of just a whole new look and feel and just vibe to the show. I'm really excited to be back here. I didn't know there was probably a month, if not 2 months, where I wasn't sure I would remember how to do this. I wasn't sure that I would ever return to this work at all. I really couldn't put any thoughts together, and it was really scary for a while. So grateful to be back here, grateful that y'all are here with me, that we are doing this thing, and just to be back doing the thing that I love, because I love doing this. I love being able to freely express, create, and learn with all of you and bring those learnings back in this discussion style podcast where we can really kind of hammer some things out here. So on Tuesdays going forward, and this is a Tuesday, and I probably won't often say Tuesdays, but on Tuesdays we're always going to be reviewing learnings from whatever book I am reading right now. And so I brought my book, and I wasn't reading all of this time. I couldn't read. There was no additional mental capacity while my brain was healing from the injury that it sustained from the accident. And I should give you a brief overview of the accident, just so some of you listening aren't like, what accident? Basically, my vehicle with my two daughters, Buick, we were traveling southbound on a highway, and we were about 10 feet from an intersection, a stop sign. I was watching this vehicle closely because they were kind of rolling, and they were making me a little bit nervous. As I was coming up to that vehicle, I was saying, they're not going to go, they're not going to go, they're not going to go, and we got about a lane away, or about 10 feet away, and they went. We were going upwards of speeds from 55 miles per hour to 65 miles per hour. Not sure. Didn't check the speedometer. At that point, I was pretty cautiously watching them, so I'm assuming that I had slowed down. But again, I don't know how fast I was going. And the vehicle went fully into our lane and stopped. We were about 10 feet away when they pulled out and stopped in our lane. I saw them, and because I had been watching them so closely, at that point, I was able to react. And so instead of hitting them kind of head on in a T-bone situation, I pulled my vehicle as hard as I could to avoid them, and really, for how close we were at the speed that we were going, really amazing that I was able to react that quickly to that situation, and to sheriff's words, not mine, to have saved probably 5 lives from that going much worse, the way that it definitely could have gone. So pulled the vehicle, definitely pulled off their entire front end. We pulled off our entire passenger side front end from the impact of that crash. Sustained 2 pretty significant head impacts one sideways when we hit the vehicle, and then one coming forward. Both of my daughters were in the vehicle. One sustained some head injuries with a black eye, and who knows what else, because we weren't really screened in the ER for any head injury whatsoever, because we were both conscious, although I will just say that I had some sort of a moment where I felt like we had pulled ourselves out of the vehicle. I saw all of us kind of floating above the vehicle, and not that we were dying, just I think we were saved from most of the impact of that accident through that. And anyways, we survived that crash. Vehicle totaled. Every single airbag that could ever go off went off. I had no idea that we had so many airbags, and our vehicle was totaled. We had to replace that vehicle. I will say, when you are replacing a vehicle after having an accident that significant, the way that you pick a vehicle changes after that. I had never once in my life thought about airbags. I suppose I kind of did, like, oh yeah, we should have those. But I can't say that I was ever like, I want to know exactly where those airbags are. I want to know exactly where they're going to go off. I want to know that there are 100 million airbags. I want every single airbag. The vehicle that has the most airbags is the one that I want. I have never felt better than when I looked back at my two kids and they were just surrounded by airbags. Like, I'm not sure that I made our vehicle choice based on that. I absolutely didn't. But I have never been more thankful for the safety components that were in our last vehicle and the bigness of that vehicle that could really sustain an impact like that and keep us safe inside. So that's kind of the rundown. That's what happened. That's what took us offline for 4 months. That is what has completely derailed the multiple businesses that I have built. But we will recover. We will come through this. I am so thankful for the community that I have around me who saw me suffering and said, what can I do to help? And just started throwing support and funds, rallying each other to make sure that I made it through this time. And I could go on forever about that, and we probably will do an episode on that once it has like officially hit me that literally there was no way to keep this business alive the way that the state that I was in, the state of my business, the state of just kind of everything, and people didn't let that happen. Anyways, that's a tale for another time, but this is kind of the magic of, right, changing the world outside your door versus changing the world at large. Like, focus on what you can make an impact on. Like, yeah, sure, great, someday, millions of people, all the eyeballs, all of the help. But today, like, can you impact the people around you? That really was the question that I had. And I'm so thankful that that's what I chose to focus on, because I think when you're calling out into the general void, without people kind of advocating on behalf of you, that becomes a scarier situation than the one that I was faced with. So grateful that people rose to the occasion and that they said, we're not letting you stop, even though definitely that was on the table. It was like having very real conversations with my husband, with my family, like, if this has to stop because Hannah doesn't return to normal, and we didn't know how long that would be. I mean, there were only sparkling, wonderful promises of concussion recovery, brain injury recovery, of like, people have had symptoms last the rest of their lives. People have had problems forever since then. My friend never recovered. It took my friend 7 years before they got over that. I never got over that. So just know that brain injury is like a whole spectrum of impacts and problems. And I think for me, there aren't very many medical options when it comes to recovery that don't dangerously disrupt your brain chemistry. And a lot of the treatments for brain injury are severely debilitating medications. And yeah, they may help, but I think the long-term effects of messing with the brain center of your body really scared me. And so, we did a lot of research and a lot of understanding of more holistic paths and what is the best treatment for brain injury and what are other people doing. Only when the traditional options were giving me more symptoms and side effects, then I could understand. So it got really tough to tell what was concussion and what was medication results. And usually that would be the provider's response too. Like, well, if you're having that could be the medicine. Well, then that's probably not a great medicine because I was already experiencing those symptoms. So we just trial and errored a lot of different options. So many different care and treatment plans have changed over the last 4 months. I think now we have a better understanding of what's going on than we ever did. But 0 out of 10 do not recommend getting in a severe car accident a week before Christmas. Less than a week before Christmas, because you have the back-to-back holidays. They think that impacted immediate care so very much. I wasn't able to get any symptom relief until we had the results of testing. We didn't get that until about 2 months after the accident. And so this definitely could have been something that was a lot shorter, but because we kept having to have stuff pushed out because there wasn't enough staff or there wasn't enough appointment availability because people were off for vacations, it just took a super long time. I did not sleep for 2 months straight. And at that point started looking at different remedies for cures because nothing was helping. And honestly, no one could help because we didn't even know what was going on. So thankful to be in a better place. Thankful that, the accident could have been so much worse than it wasn't. And we're still here. Yay. That yay does not mean that this has not been severely debilitating to everything that I do, to even my own self-motivation, my own daily practices, like not being able to move my body for that long because of some other injuries that I sustained, not being able to read because I just didn't have the mental capacity for written word, not being able to write, not being able to create, not being able to really even just function day to day, takes a very big toll on your self-confidence, on I just really got to this mental place where am I going to be back to the Hannah? I don't even smile. Who is this? I'm not laughing. I'm not enjoying. My brain shuts down almost instantly upon engagement. Still having those symptoms when I get to, now it takes a longer time. Whereas before it kind of would take an hour of overwhelm would completely shut down my brain. Now I would say I have probably about a 5-hour capacity for intense, engaging work. And so before my brain starts to shut down. And that actually segues us perfectly into this book, because this is already something that I struggle with. My brain, and I think everyone should do the best job that they can to figure out how they think and work. I love all of the identifiers, all the quizzes, all of the self-acceptance and acknowledgement of all the things that we can know about ourselves, and not to become obsessed with ourselves, but really to better understand, to self-actualize. what is my tendency and how are people perceiving that? Or why might someone be feeling this way about how I'm reacting to a situation, right? So then we're not just going in blind and going, hey, I'm perfect. I have all these amazing qualities about myself and everyone should listen to me and I'm so awesome. So then we can go in knowing, hey, I'm great at X, Y, and Z. I still struggle with A, B, and C. I will always struggle with A, B, and C. I have no interest in developing A, B, and C, whatever that conversation might be with yourself, or I'm working on it, but I'm not great at it. Being able to come back to the table and ask those questions and have those conversations with yourself. So part of understanding myself and coming off of the year that I just had led me to this book, which is backwards because screens can't understand that, although Google phones can. So this is a book titled Visual Thinking, and it is by Temple Grandin, and she actually writes a lot of books on this topic because this is how her brain works, and the importance of understanding if your brain works this way, you may not, or you may fill in the blank. And so as I'm reading this, I'm just realizing how often that gift has been misunderstood in my life, how often people haven't been able to see the good that can bring to a situation, and how very strange it makes me. Whereas most people can just see things as they are, as it lays. I don't have the ability to not look at the trajectory, to not be searching for the pattern or the repetitive nature and possibility of a given situation. And so, because I'm always looking for that pattern, I'm always looking to understand that, oftentimes, if I'm thinking deeply about a topic or trying to solve a problem, that is where my head goes. And it doesn't go there in a normal way. I go into myself, I'm trying to make the connection, because until I can make a connection, I can visually see how this is going to be done. Until I see it done, whether I'm playing the track in my brain, or I'm physically there seeing it happen visually, I can't really solve until I have seen it visually. And so if I'm in a meeting with someone, that's where my brain is going. If I haven't seen it operate, I'm trying to create a picture of it in my head. And so what that looks like in meetings is that I am withdrawn, or I am angry, or I am, or I hate the idea. But what it actually is me deeply thinking about the idea and trying to visually create a picture of it in my brain. Okay, and then this, and then I'm tying in statistics into that, trying to play out how this plays out. And I need to see that before I can really onboard to something, before I can really understand how this work is going to play out, what is going to get done. And most people can just take it for surface level and, oh yeah, I think that'll be great. But I'm constantly looking for the patterns, the picture, the visualization of it, the completion of it. What are all of the steps? And that's how my brain works. And so if someone would bring to me kind of a half thought out plan, my brain is naturally going to be pulling to put together a pattern, to put together a picture of what that is going to look like, to bring it to fruition. Because without that, for me, really, how are we going to get there? And the beauty of that is I can invent things that most people can't because I can visually bring it to life if I'm at the start of it. Like, I can trust that I will figure out the system after if I can just see what it looks like. If I can put enough of kind of a pattern recognition together to like bring that to life in my mind, then from there I can always correct. But I have to be able to kind of put a picture or a pattern of some sort to it before I can go and do it and then improve it after. And I have no problem with improving after. But prior to that, I have to have enough sort of abstract thought, enough of a pattern recognition to be able to repeat it and improve it, to put something into play. And without that, without something that's systemized, really, like, how are we doing this? And most people won't ask those questions. Oh, yeah, that sounds great. That's going to be so great. I love it so much. Yay. But I think really there has to be a very exact way of this thing happening, because otherwise we're really just leaving all of that to chance. And the truth is, when we leave things to chance, we really leave strategy off of the table. Right? When we don't know how people are getting to us, when we don't know exactly how this is going to run, we really can't say we're going to make an improvement if we never knew what we were doing to begin with. And again, I am fine with kind of flying by the seat of our pants with enough of intentional effort so that we know what we need to improve next time. Like, hey, this is exactly how we did it last time, and it's okay for it to only be a super simple, like, we did this form, we did this post, and this was the result of that. Okay, so we need more people, or we need a better process. Okay, well, maybe the form wasn't enough, or maybe the this, or that. Anyways, I say all of this because Temple, my girl, hey, I'd love to hang out sometime. That's what her brain thinks. And for a while, especially over the last year, because I've developed so many things, and oh my gosh, this bumpy desk. Because I have developed so many things, I, for a while, just thought like, oh, Hannah, I think you need to stop creating things, and maybe that's the problem, and you're not meant to lead this, and you're not a great leader, and that's always gonna be out there, no question. But it has been nice to know that the way that I think is not wrong, and is often misinterpreted because of kind of the effect that it brings. And now, coming off of the accident, this effect is something that I did not realize. And it's funny because I feel like I got a very in-depth understanding of how a brain works and the shutdown mechanisms upon overwhelm that happen within your brain. And I think I was aware, but I had no idea that, once your brain is overwhelmed, it kind of shuts off emotion. And so for me, realizing this in real time right now, welcome to the show. This is how we work. For me, if I am given too much and there is not a way for my brain to create a pattern or a picture to take something that is, even something that's abstract, I really don't have a problem with. But if I can tell that there's more that's not being added to the story, if I can tell that there's like something underneath energetically that like I can't see, that's not playing into this, my brain is still going to search for that. Like, I need to know what is the culture, what is how is this getting done? How are we playing this out? And it's so funny because, right, I'm fine with running and just applying and doing and then coming back and making improvements. And I am good with that. But I know the structure that needs to be laid for me to come back to an understanding. And so when I'm working with other people, I'm trying to get whatever that work is to that place, to that understanding, for me to be able to create something that is sustainable, to create something that will be successful. Because I'll just study the thing until I figure it out. Like, trust, okay? I was never successful in volleyball, in the volleyball world. And I got a late start, so I feel like it's kind of fair that I wasn't. I picked up my first volleyball in the middle of my 8th grade year, and then was able to have my entire college education paid for by that. So that was 5 years of intense study, start to scholarship. And I didn't get a fancy scholarship. I wasn't a Division I player, but isn't that kind of the goal, right? Like, get your school paid for and play the sport that you love. That should be the goal. That's such a beautiful goal. Being on a team in college is like nothing else. I think it's the greatest network of people that you could come into that experience with. So I highly recommend it. And now, even though I was a Division I obsessed person, which I think is fine, to have goals, to set goals for yourself, now I would say play, get your school paid for something that you love, and do it as long as you still love it. And so I wasn't successful there, but nonetheless, I'm obsessed. I'm trying to figure out a pattern. I'm trying to figure out how people get successful in this. I'm studying the greats that are right around me. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm watching how they do things. I'm picking up patterns of how they talk, of all these things. And so then I take that and I apply that to my own system. And I did experience success, but it was really just success. And I always kind of look around and laugh, because I'm basically like taking other people's ideas that I see patterns in, and then I'm implementing additional patterns to those things, or I'm tweaking and changing to fit the specific instance, and then I'm going with it. And it seems to work, but in my brain, when I'm looking for these things, when I am trying to visually think my way there, and I think this book will really help you if your brain works the same way, I can tell now that I have experienced my brain shutting down that that's what's happening. My entire brain will silence to pick the patterns, to find the consistencies, and to draw a bigger vision based on the patterns that I find. How are we going to replicate this and create a system that works? And my brain can't help but go there. But when I am given too much information, or when I am given information that really is not important to the systematic patterned approach to whatever it is that we're doing, my brain will shut down, and I just have to start thinking, like trying so hard to pull out what matters. My brain gets overwhelmed very quickly when I'm not being given information that matters to the pattern that my brain needs to do something. And, whether or not, and she talks a lot about on the spectrum or autism or neurodivergence in here, whether or not that's a part of my brain, I don't know, because I've never been formally assessed for any of that. But what I will say is, now that I have experienced my brain shutting down from being injured, now I understand that my brain does that when I can't find a pattern in how someone is speaking or presenting information to me. That's what I'm looking for. And if I can't find that somewhere within whatever they're giving me, my brain does shut down until it can find some sort of pattern, visualization, picture to like get me to where they are. And if I can't find that, I completely shut down. And it's hard for me to re-engage unless I can find a pattern in something. So, pick up this book at your local bookstore. You can certainly find it, and it's a great one for anyone who thinks differently or has struggled to understand the way that their brain works in certain situations. This one's super helpful. My brain has sort of always shut down. Looking for that, and it's super helpful because I can understand sitting in meetings where people aren't nodding and like loving, and I won't. If I can't find a pattern in whatever it is, my brain kind of shuts down looking for that, and I won't be sitting there going like I might have been before, because my brain shuts down until I can understand where the system's coming in, where the pattern, what's the vision, to make this repeatable. Yeah. So pick up that book if that's something that interests you. I have found it to be an incredible read just in understanding myself, but also in understanding the gifts of people who think like that. And definitely, I know my husband doesn't necessarily think, I think he thinks in patterns as well. And so we may just have created some either superhumans or super problematic people. I don't know. But to kind of go within yourself and internalize that and sit with the thought that maybe this way of thinking is good. Maybe this kind of brain, even though at times it can make me look sort of standoffish, it is good. And it's helpful for me to be able to explain to people that that's where my head is going. I don't hate the idea. I don't hate what you're saying. I'm trying to find the pattern. And I can't sit there and until I find it. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change